Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now a massive warning signal is flashing on this Bitcoin chart as the price of Bitcoin continues to struggle in the short term, but we now have massive liquidity building above the price of Bitcoin, which I'll talk about in just a moment, while Ethereum is trying to hang on to this important area of support, while all of these other altcoins are continuing these further breaks to the downside. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before getting into the Bitcoin charts today, taking a quick look at some Bitcoin news today, because we actually just had the US president's son tweet bullish about Bitcoin, saying that it feels like a great time to enter BTC, which is very interesting. And also in the top of the replies underneath this bullish tweet about Bitcoin, we have, of course, Michael Saylor, one of the biggest Bitcoin whales out there when it comes to MicroStrategy, which actually just rebranded to simply just Strategy. So the company name is Strategy, not MicroStrategy. And so while the price of Bitcoin has been, of course, dropping just recently, some of these other players like Eric Trump, Michael Saylor are actually potentially accumulating more Bitcoin, so keep that in mind. And in some other crypto news today, not just Bitcoin news today, we actually have Elon Musk proposing putting the US Treasury on a blockchain for full spending transparency. And so obviously this will be extremely bullish, especially for whatever blockchain it's actually built on. So if they end up going with an existing blockchain, like for example Solana, I'm not saying it will be built on Solana, but let's just say for example it's built on Solana, that would be extremely bullish for Solana, obviously. And of course, with the US Treasury's transactions being on a blockchain, basically anyone can track where all of the money is going at all times, so it's essentially fully transparent, which will be very interesting. But either way, this could potentially be some bullish news for crypto if indeed we have blockchain integrated into the US Treasury. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on this weekly time frame, not a lot has changed over the last one day. Technically speaking, it is possible we can remain within the larger bull market, obviously, despite seeing short-term pullbacks and dumps along the way. This is very normal to see even during a bull market. But if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, as of right now, at the time of recording this video, we are just flashing a possible bearish crossover in the weekly Bitcoin MACD. But like I said in my last video, that possible bearish crossover still needs to be confirmed with this next weekly candle close. And in case you're wondering, the next weekly candle close confirms in a little over 3 days from now at exactly Sunday night, midnight UTC. And so if over the next 3 days we see a decent little bounce in the short term in the price of Bitcoin, then we could potentially avoid the bearish crossover at least for another week until perhaps the next weekly candle close, obviously. But if we completely avoid the bearish cross and instead we start gathering more bullish momentum in the coming days and over the next 1 week or so, then in that case it is still possible we could play out similar price action to what we saw 1 year ago, because we did get very close to a bearish crossover back then. But essentially, if nothing really changes over the next couple of days, and especially over the next 1.5 weeks with the following weekly candle close, because this weekly candle close, it'll be very close either way. It honestly could go either way when it comes to the bearish cross here. But with the following weekly candle close in around a week and a half from now, if nothing really changes between now and then, there's a very good chance that in that weekly candle close, we will see a bearish crossover confirm. And like I explained recently here on the channel, a bearish crossover would of course be bearish for the price of Bitcoin. And the last time we saw a bearish cross on the weekly time frame in the MACD indicator, we saw a larger bearish trend in the price of Bitcoin for roughly around half a year or so. So of course, not necessarily a massive bear market like 2022, but potentially a little bit more bearish price action over the following months if that bearish signal confirms. And if we're looking at this 4-day Bitcoin chart, the super trend indicator is still technically sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, obviously we still have a massive bearish divergence flashing on the weekly time frame, which is a major warning signal to pay attention to, telling us that we're basically losing a lot of bullish momentum in the larger bull market. And so that is still the situation here on the larger timeframes. And if we're taking a look at the slightly shorter term on the 8-hour Bitcoin chart, obviously right now in the short term, the price of Bitcoin, as I've been saying for the last couple of days, is simply chopping around sideways exactly as expected. Because obviously in my recent videos here on the channel, I've been saying expect mostly choppy sideways price action as a very likely scenario just in the short term. And so obviously by choppy sideways price action, I mean simply short-term bounces and short-term pullbacks, just bouncing around sideways like this. And I do expect similar price action to this potentially over the next 1 to 2 days, considering at least in the short term, we are clearly lacking momentum to either direction. And as for support and resistance, we have major resistance in this price range in between 101,000 to 103,000. And above that, a lot more resistance in between 106,000 to 107,000. And we could also find a bit of short-term resistance at approximately 99,000 based on previous support becoming new resistance. And as for support to watch out for, we do have some support in between around 95 to 96,000 approximately, right around there, that has been supporting the price of Bitcoin. And below that level, we have major support in this area in between around 92,000 to 93,000. And just before taking a look at some other important Bitcoin charts today, first, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally, I take most of my trades over on Bitfinex, so I'll make sure to leave a link to Bitfinex below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim an exclusive 10% discount on all trading fees on the Bitfinex exchange forever. But that is only available if you use the link below this video to make your Bitfinex account and start trading on that account to take advantage of this massive fee discount. And also, if you use that link, you can claim the 5,500 USDT deposit bonus simply just by making your account using that link, making a deposit and starting to trade on Bitfinex. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link below this video. And also, in case you're wondering, Bitfinex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want Bitfinex as an exchange, there is also Bybit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I will also make sure to leave a link to Bybit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, and right now we can see a lot of liquidity building above the price of Bitcoin, mainly starting at around 107.5k and going up towards around 110,000, basically in that massive area right there in between around mainly 108k to 110k. We have a lot of liquidity in that area. And so it's possible that could cause a short squeeze in the price of Bitcoin, which would be bullish for the price of Bitcoin, but that would only happen if we actually see a breakout above this area, which would mean a breakout above these areas of resistance, because obviously between now and that major area of liquidity, we have these major areas of resistance, which are causing the price to struggle in those areas, basically preventing the price from hitting that liquidity. And so ultimately, I'll not really flip overly bullish again on the price of Bitcoin until we can at least break out back above this area of resistance in between 101,000 to 103,000. And then especially if we could break out above around 106k to 107k, that will be the point to flip extremely bullish on Bitcoin, essentially expecting another major move in the larger bull market with potentially a massive short squeeze if we actually break out above these points of resistance, which for now obviously have not happened. And we do have some liquidity building to the downside to watch out for. First of all, we have a small amount at around 88,000, but below that we actually have some decent amounts starting to form at just underneath $80,000. But for the most part, as I said earlier, I do expect honestly mostly some choppy sideways price action, at least for the next 1 or 2 days. It could last longer, but at least for the next 1 or 2 days, I do expect that type of price action here in the short term. And one of the reasons as to why I'm saying that, alongside the fact that we're simply lacking momentum in the price of Bitcoin, is due to the fact that the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates are looking very much neutral, with a lot of the funding rates even slightly below neutral, below 0.01%. And so this basically tells us that we don't necessarily have a massive pressure from the funding rates being put on the price, which ultimately tells us we're looking very neutral in the short term, once again lacking momentum. That is simply the situation as of right now. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, right now the price of ETH is starting to break below this important Fibonacci level of support, which was sitting at around 2.8k. And obviously, as I've recorded in this video, the price of ETH is already trading below 2.8k, but we're still waiting for some more confirmation here, because that latest 3-day candle close confirmed pretty much right on that Fibonacci level, not really well below that level. And if we were to see some more confirmation here confirming the break below that Fibonacci level, then in that case, the next retracement level to the downside is the 50% retracement level, sitting at around 2,500. And below that, we have the all-important golden pocket area of support in between around 2,150 to 2.2k. But if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, we have this area of support based on this previous area of resistance, and that's sitting in between 2.7k to 2.8k. So at least for now, in the short term, 2.7k to 2.8k is the area of support to pay attention to. And as of recording this video, the price of ETH is trying to hang on to this area of support, but we're getting very close to a possible break to the downside. And below that area of support, if we see a confirmed candle close, for example, on the daily time frame below 2.7k, then in that case, the next important area of support on this daily time frame based on previous support is sitting in between around 2220 to 2360. So roughly around 2.3k, give or take, as the next major support. But overall, if we're looking at the price structure for Ethereum, it's clear that at least for now, in the somewhat shorter term, we are bearish, forming lower highs and lower lows. And if we're taking a look at Solana, it's basically the same story for Solana as well, because we're simply forming lower highs and lower lows, which is bearish price structure. At least for now, we are in a bearish trend here on the 8-hour Solana chart. And we've just flipped previous support into new resistance, which is more bearish price structure. And the area I'm talking about, by the way, is sitting in between around 199 to 205. So really right around that $200 level. Previously, that was some support just here, but now we've just broken below that level, come back up to retest that level, and then actually reject from that area, flipping it into new resistance, which is obviously bearish. And so I would now expect resistance once again in that area. But if we were to see a breakout back above around $205, in that case, we have a lot more resistance in this area, sitting in between 220 to 225. And as for support to watch out for, we do have a small amount of support at roughly around 190, but below that level, the next major area of support to the downside is sitting in between around 178 to 183. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the daily time frame, XRP is simply bearish in the shorter term, not necessarily the longer term, but the shorter term is simply bearish because we have obviously broken below this area of support, as I talked about recently here on the channel. That area was sitting in between around $2.58 to $2.73. And so as soon as we saw that daily candle close confirm below 258, that was the signal telling us that we're going to continue to play out this bearish divergence, and that's exactly what's happened since then. And so when it comes to support levels to watch out for right now, we do have some support at roughly around $2.26 to $2.27 based on these previous lows acting as support, and below those lows we have major support in this area sitting in between around $1.95 to $2.05, so roughly around $2 as major support. And as for resistance, I would expect a bit of short-term resistance at around 246 to 247 and more resistance in this area based on previous support flipping into new resistance, and also previous resistance sitting in between $2.58 to $2.73. And like I said earlier and over again recently here on the channel, the short-term situation is simply bearish, playing out a bearish divergence. So overall, we're more bearish than we are bullish, at least in the shorter term. And if we're taking a look at Chainlink on the 6-hour time frame, it's a similar story for Chainlink as well. We are simply bearish in the shorter term, breaking below support, playing out bearish price structure. And in fact, just over the last couple of days, we confirmed a 6-hour candle close breaking below this area of support, which was sitting in between $19.50 to $20.50. And then after confirming the break to the downside with a candle close, we came back up for a retest, and then we've just now rejected from that area, flipping previous support into new resistance. So I'd now expect resistance in between $19.50 to $20.50. And above that area, if we were to see a quick breakout back to the upside, in that case, we still have a lot of resistance in this area, sitting in between $22 to $22.50. And as for support to watch out for, honestly, the final major area of support before potentially much lower prices is this level of support, which is sitting at around $18. So it is important that the price of Chainlink holds above $18 in order to avoid potentially much lower prices. I'm talking about potentially around $15, give or take, if we break below $18. So for now, that is the support to watch out for. But once again, if you want to get set up, ready to go to take the next trading opportunity in the price of any crypto, check out those links below this video to claim those extra bonuses that you can only claim using those links over on those exchanges. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto so that you can profit from any of this price action, whether it's bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit from all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or shorts positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.